Welcome. Now today in this video we'll be looking at solving more questions on surjective function. If you check on our playlist, you'll see the introduction on surjective functions that we already looked at. I'll be solving more examples on surjective functions. Now, surjective function, as we stated before, is an onto function where we determine whether the codomain is equal to the range, or you could say the range is equal to what? The codomain. Now, this is our domain, this is our codomain. So we'll solve for the range of this function. And if the range of this function is equal to the codomain of this function, we say that the function is what? Surjective. So now let's look at this. Finding the range of this, if you have not watched our videos on range, domain, surjective functions, injective function, you can see on the playlist. You'll see those videos and you will get to understand this process a lot faster. So let's continue. Now looking at this, finding the range of this function, we've already stated our rules for finding the range of a function. So we equate this function to equal to what? Y. So we have y is equal to log, and we make x subject of the formula. To make x subject of the formula, we have log of equal to y. Now we can take exponents of both sides. So taking the exponents of both sides, we're taking exponents to remove the log. So taking exponents of both sides, we have exponential log of what? X base e is equal to what? Exponential y. Now since we have this, based on the law of logarithm, if we have something of this nature, if we have a log of b base c, it is same thing as what? B log of what? A base c. So we could switch these powers here. So we could switch this and bring it here. We can carry this here. And that's what is going to happen here. So we have x log of what? E base e is equal to what? Exponential y. Now, since we have this, now based on the law of logarithm, if you have log of a base a, it is equal to what? 1. Once the base and the power are the same, it is what? 1. So this is what? X raised to the power of what? 1, which is equal to what? Exponential y. Now we don't need to write the 1 since it's the same thing as x. And now we have solved for x. Now we have to find the range now of this function. The range of this function, if you have watched our videos on range, the range of an exponential function is what? All real numbers. The range of every exponential, the domain and the range of exponential functions are always what? All real numbers. So we can say the range of f, r of f, is what? All real numbers. Or we can say from negative infinity to what? Positive infinity. Now, this is the range of the function. What is the codomain of this function? It is what? All real numbers. And since the range is equal to the codomain, this function is what? Surjective. So this function is surjective. So you can say, therefore, the function is what? Surjective. And say the function is what? Surjective. Now, if you have watched our previous video on injective function, if you look, you will see that this function was injective, and therefore we can say the function is what? Bijective. A bijective function is a function where it is both what? Injective and what? Surjective. Now, to solve for this, finding whether this function is injective or surjective, or not, we would have to find the range of this function again. Now, to solve for this, we'll say y is equal to what? Log of what? X plus 2 base e. So we'll take the same route also. The same thing we did here is what we are going to do here. So we'll have log of x plus 2 base e is equal to what? Y. Now what do we do next? We take exponents. Taking the exponents of both sides, we have exponential log of what? X plus 2 base e is equal to exponential y. What do we do next? We carry this here and we bring this here. So we have x plus 2 all raised to the power of what? Log of e base e is equal to exponential y. Now since we have this also, log e base e is what? 1, because the power and the base are the same. So we have x plus 2 raised to the power of 1 is equal to what? Exponential y. Now we don't need to write this. We can now say x is equal to exponential y minus 2. Because if we open up this bracket, we have x plus 2 is equal to this, so we carry 2 to the other side. And therefore, you see that x is equal to this. Now, to find the range of this function also, This is an exponential function again. And therefore, the range of the minus 2 is not our business here. This is our concern here. So this is our concern here. This is what? All real numbers. And therefore, the range of this function r of f is equal to what? All real numbers. Or we could say from negative infinity to what? Positive infinity. And therefore, since the domain, the codomain, is equal to the range of the function, we say the function is what? Surjective. So this function is also what? This function is also what? Surjective. This function is also surjective. Now heading to the third example or question we have here, we are to find also the range of this function. So the same principle will follow the same method. You say y is equal to what? 2x squared minus 1 divided by what? X plus 1. And since we have this, we would have to make x subject of the formula. So we'd have 2x squared minus 1 divided by what? X plus 1 is equal to what? Y. So it's the same thing. There's nothing changing here. We can cross multiply. We have y bracket what? X plus 1 is equal to what? 2x squared minus 1. So cross multiplying. So since we have this, we could expand this. Expanding this, we have xy, y times x, xy, plus y is equal to what? 2x squared minus 1. You can carry y to the other side and bring 2x squared here. Or we can carry this one here and bring this one here. So either way it works. So we can say y, 1 coming here, we have positive 1 equal to 2x squared minus x squared y. If this one goes over here, becomes minus x squared y. So we have y plus 1 equal to, we have x squared here, so we can factorize it out. So we can have x squared bracket, what will be left here is 2 minus y. So we can divide both sides by what? 2 minus y. Sorry, so we have 2 minus y. This will cancel out this. We can now say x squared is equal to what? Y plus 1 divided by what? 2 minus y. We can square root both sides. If we square root both sides, we have a plus or minus here. This will cancel out this, and x will be equal to what? Plus or minus the square root of what? Y plus 1 divided by square root of what? 2 minus y. This plus or minus is for both the numerator and denominator, so it's the same thing regardless. So now we have made x subject of the formula, we can now find the range. Now finding the range, we have to find the range of the numerator, finding the range of the what? Denominator, because this is a rational function, which is functions with in fractions in a radical function. That means the radical functions are functions with what? Roots. Now their conditions will differ. You have watched the previous video on surjective function, we did something similar to this. So having this, we have to find the range of the numerator. Now for the numerator, the condition is y what? Y will be what? Or the condition will just be what? We can just say the condition is greater than or equal to what? 0. If you have not watched our videos on the range and domain of functions, you can go back and watch it. You will understand these conditions and how we get them. So we have a playlist for them. You can check it out. If you're also enjoying this video, hit the notification bell. Hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell. Also, hit the like button and also share to your friends and colleagues. So having this, we can now equate the equation to the condition. We have y plus 1 is greater than or equal to what? 0. And since we have this, we can now say y is greater than or equal to what? Negative 1. Now this is for the numerator. We now do for the denominator. For the denominator, we have that what? The condition will now be what? Greater than 0, not greater than or equal to, because we cannot afford the denominator to be what? 0. So the condition will just be what? Greater than 0. Now we now have 2 minus y is greater than what? 0. To carry 2 to the other side, we have negative y is greater than what? Negative 2. Based on the rule of inequality, we have that whenever we are multiplying through by a negative or dividing through by a negative, the sign changes to the opposite. Now, since we have a greater than here, it becomes a what? Less than. So we divide by negative, negative, we have that what y now will now be what less than what 2. Now we'll go to our number line and confirm and find our range. We have our negative infinity and our infinity. We have 0 here. Now since we have negative 1 will be here. We have 2 here, 2 will be here. Now y is what less than 2, so go towards the side, and y is what greater than or equal to, so we can now have shade it here because it is greater than or equal to what 2. So now whenever we have an overlap both in your domain and range, the overlap is either your domain or your range in any instance. Now, so that means our range is between here and here. So we have the range of f is what? Inclusive -1, because we have y is greater than or equal to, and we have comma what? 2 not inclusive. Now we come back to our question. Our question says the codomain is what? All real numbers. Our range is not all real numbers, and therefore this function is not what? Surjective. This function is not surjective. Now let us look at the fourth question. For this question, to find the range, we also follow the same procedure. We have y, or you could say now, instead of doing it this way, you could say 2x divided by what? Square root of x squared plus 1 is equal to what? Y. Now since we have this, we can square both sides. When we square both sides, it makes it much easier. We now have what? 2x all squared divided by what? Square root of what? X squared plus 1 all squared. So it is the same thing. It's equal to what? Y squared. This will be what? 4x squared. This will cancel out this, and we have x squared plus 1 equal to what? Y squared. We can now cross multiply. If we cross multiply, this is over 1. So now when we cross multiply, we now have our y squared bracket what? X squared plus 1 equal to what? 4x squared. We can expand the bracket and we have x squared y squared is plus what? Y squared is equal to what? 4x squared. And since we have this, we can bring 4x squared, x squared, y squared to the other side, and we have y squared is equal to what? 4x squared minus what? X squared, y squared. Now, since we have this, what's common between here is what? You have your x squared and your x squared. So we have x squared bracket what? 4 minus y equal to what? Y squared. And we can divide both sides by what? 4 minus y. 4 minus y. So this will cancel out this. And since we have this, we can now say that our x squared is equal to what? Y squared divided by what? 4 minus y. Now since we have this, we can now square root both sides. Square rooting both sides, we have square root of x squared is equal to square root of y squared, let me write this well, divided by what? 4 minus y. Now we have a plus or minus here. Now this will cancel out this, and we have x to be equal to what? Plus or minus the root of what? Y squared divided by what? Square root of what? 4 minus y. This will cancel out this, and we end up with something like this. We have x to be equal to what? Plus or minus y divided by what? Square root of what? 4 minus y. Now since we have this, we now have made x a subject of the formula. Making x subject of the formula here, we can now find the range. Now, finding the range, we have to find the range of the numerator and the range of the denominator to get the range of the entire function. So, the range of the numerator, this is a linear function. A linear function is in the form ax squared, ax plus b, I mean. Now, this is only ax. So, since it's a linear function, the domain, the range, I mean, of this function will be what? All real numbers. So the range of this will be what? All real numbers. Or you can say from negative infinity to what? Infinity. If you don't have a clue about this, go and watch our video on range of function to understand it better. Now for the denominator, to get the range of the denominator, what we'll do is this. This is a rational function inside a radical function. The condition for this kind of situation will be what? Greater than 0. So we equate our equation to the condition. So we have 4 minus y greater than 0. We can carry 4 to the other side. We have negative y is greater than what? Negative 4. Divide both sides by a negative, the sign changes for inequality. So we have negative, negative. This will cancel out this, and we have y to be what? Less than what? 4. Now, since we have this, let's come here and do this. We can go to our number line. Going to our number line, we have this. Now, for this, we have all real numbers. For this, we have y is what? Greater than what? 4. Since they are not the same, the range of the denominator holds more weight. Because if here is greater than 4, let's say we have 4 minus 5 would have a negative number. And once the denominator is invalid, the whole function becomes invalid. So in this case, for this kind of condition, the denominator holds more weight. And therefore, we would have that here is 0, here is infinity, negative infinity, and here is infinity. Our 4 will be here. So y is what? Greater than what? 4. And therefore, the range of this entire function would be what? Let me write it here. So cleaning this, the range of the function r of f will be equal to what? 4 not inclusive, comma, what? Infinity. And this is the range of the function. Now, what is the codomain of this function? It is what? All real numbers. Therefore, this function is not surjective. This function is not surjective. Okay, so now, solving the last two questions, which is the 5th and the 6th one, you would solve this and I will do this. So let's do this now. Now, to find the domain of a trigonometric function, we have sine of x here. It's of interest for you to know that the domain of, sorry, I say the domain, the range, the domain of sine function, domain of your sine function is all real numbers. It's of interest for you to know. And also the domain of your cos function. So cos of x is what? All real numbers. Now, this is the domain. The range is what? From negative 1 to what? 1. And the range for this is also what? From negative 1 to what? 1. So this is the domain of sine of x and cos of x. This is the range of what? Sine of x and what? Cos of x. So what is the codomain here? The codomain here is what? All real numbers. And what is the range of a sine function? It is from negative 1 to 1. And therefore, this function is not what? Surjective. Now, tell me in the comment section, is this function going to be surjective or not? And if this function is surjective, tell me whether it's going to be bijective or not. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.